You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome to another Friday episode of Cards to the Moon. This is episode 108, and I'm one of your hosts, Clark, from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. And with me is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. All right, first, I want to give a quick shout out to all of our podcast subscribers because we just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark this past week. So as a small token of appreciation, we're going to do another giveaway. And if you're a longtime listener, you know we're fans of this particular set, which we think deserves way more hobby love. I'm talking, of course, about the Stadium Club baseball set. And we got a blaster box for one winner. So I told the guys this. I actually pulled a Ronald Acuna short print recently and just flipped it quickly for $100. So nice. Not bad. Yeah, not bad. So there are hits to be had in Stadium Club. So all you have to do to enter is like the Instagram post of this contest, which will be pinned to the top of our Cards to the Moon Instagram account. And we'll announce the winner on our next Friday show, which is in 2 weeks. All right. Okay, so off the top, I just wanted to update everyone that the iconic Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps card that was recently submitted to SGC, it came back in SGC 8, which is great. And the seller just put it up on Heritage Auctions this month. So we're historically bad at this game, but we're going to do it anyways. How much do you think this will go for at the end of the day?
Man, I want to be optimistic, but I'm not so optimistic about this for a couple of reasons. I still think it will be potentially a record sale for a SGC 8 or PSA 8 in that kind of grading spectrum, but I think it loses a lot of value. I mean, the huge $12.5 million sale was on that SGC 9.5, so the trajectory there would be like, I would say like it's a $7 million card, but then it doesn't make any sense as you go lower and lower in grade, because that's where the price, I think, really comes down. But it's such a rare card that it still might hold its value, right? So I'm going to say it's still going to be pretty high for SGC 8. I'm going to say it's going to hit $4.5 million.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Well, a PSA 8 sold for $2 million.
Right.
That was in 2021 of October. And a PSA 9 sold for, I think, north of 5, I want to say. That was like a while ago as well.
Do you guys know the story behind this card? Where did it come from? It's pretty wild.
Oh yeah, I think we told it that one time when we were talking about the 52 Mantle. So it was like apparently it was this guy in the attic had a bunch locked out, because the story was that all these
it's that same
52
pile?
Mantle, that was the only known existence, because everything else got thrown in the water.
The river, the lake,
so
or whatever.
It was known that none of these cards existed, right, anymore. But then a guy had it like boxed up in an attic, and this is where that guy bought them all, and then he graded most of them. And
crazy.
Yeah, these are the leftovers that are there. So that's why it still might fetch a premium, because it's such a scarce card in the backstory.
Right. But by the way, is that a $30 grading from SGC?
That's true. Did he get charged?
No max declared value. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're good to go.
I wonder how much that would have costed if he went to PSA.
Oh, it's probably you'd have to forfeit the card.
No kidding.
Well, actually, it's SGC. I think there's no max declared value for cards post 2000. So I'm not sure how it works.
Right. There might be
cards. Yeah.
There might be something.
What do you think, John? What's your guess?
You know us. Like what do we know about the high end card market? This is tough. I on the one hand, I want to follow along Hyung's trajectory, because I think that is the correct type of valuation.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who knows? Because I think the 9.5 also sold really high, and I think it sold really high because the 10s are just not available for sale, and this was pretty much damn near perfect. And like people were kind of commenting about how the color looked amazing and all of that stuff. So I think there was something else to the 9.5. This one's an 8, which is still like mint beautiful. I'm gonna guess like around 2.5 to 3.5. So I'll say 3.
Okay, so
Yeah.
3 million for John, 4.5 for Hyung.
And sorry, just to throw this out there, January 14th, 2021, I believe the last PSA 9 was 5.2. That was January 2021.
Right.
5.2, right.
5.2.
That was Rob Gold's
Right.
Oh yeah, that's right.
PSA 9, right? Okay.
Right.
Ooh.
Okay, sorry, I pulled up another thing on Card Ladder. Just really quick, just giving you intel
Sure.
before you make your answer. And I don't know if this is true, but it says Card Ladder says the PSA 9 is currently valued at 13.28.
Oh my gosh.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So, but that's a statement.
Yeah.
There's no
Right,
really
right.
proof
Right.
that that's the value.
Sale,
Right?
right. Okay. No, that's helpful. I think at that high end of a market, it doesn't matter where we are in terms of, the economy. Obviously these buyers don't care about that, right? So, Mantle's, I think it's just a special card. So anyone that really has been waiting for a Mantle,
This is it. Right.
yeah, I think this is probably, they're thinking this might be my last shot to get a high grade Mantle.
Right,
So I'm
right.
gonna say 5.5.
Dang.
I'm gonna go
You're going
high. I'm gonna go high. Yeah.
Okay.
And then yeah. So I'm
So
not
one
sure
of
what
us
the heck-
has to hit. We have a pretty good spread here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we've covered it. So yeah, I got to double check when the auction closes. Probably later this month or early Feb. But yeah, when it does, we'll let our listeners know, and we'll see how close we are or how off we were when that auction ends. Okay, moving on to our Friday discussion. We were going to do this on our Tuesday show, but I think we could talk for at least half an hour on this new segment idea we're calling Future Bets. So for this segment, I'm going to give you a list of players who are considered or potential Rookie of the Year candidates in their respective sports. And you guys just tell me if you would invest in their cards. Okay? So we'll start with NHL. I don't even know how to say his last name. John, you're going to have to help me out. From the Kraken, Matty
Beniers.
Beniers?
Yeah.
Okay. Matty Beniers. Yeah, I was just looking on websites. Like who are the favorites? It looks like he's pretty much the favorite to win Rookie of the Year at this point in the season. Actually, my son got really, really good seats to a Leafs game. Yeah, he went with my wife, who had
nice.
corporate box seats. Yeah,
Nice.
they were sitting right behind the bench of the Leafs.
dang.
Yeah,
What an
So-
experience.
yeah. I told my son Bennett, like, don't expect these seats again, okay? Because next time you come with me, we're gonna be in the 300 level, looking down, seeing the action from up
It's
there.
still probably
But
going to be
anyway.
like a $500 night for you, but
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, they were playing the Kraken. The Leafs were playing the Kraken. Beniers actually scored a goal. He looked pretty good on the ice. I don't have much to say, so I'm going to throw it to you guys. Like, throw it to John first. You're the hockey guy of this group. Are you investing in his cards? Is he worth it or what?
first of all, what a pick by Seattle as a
Sure.
as a new franchise. Man, that was a huge pick for the Matty Beniers.
Second overall?
Second overall, yeah. Pretty decent draft. I mean, the top 5-6 guys in that draft are pretty good too. But
Okay.
yeah, what a pick for them. I think it was a right pick. He's flashy. He's got breakout talent. I like him a lot. I would like to say, it's tough because you know me, I don't like going after the rookie, that chase and like the hype. So I think especially because he's on Seattle, let's say he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, which may actually be a blessing, and he kind of goes a bit under the radar, although I think his young guns are going for a pretty decent amount, because he's sort of like the only chase.
They're like $90 raw.
I think so.
$80
Yeah,
raw.
probably 70 to 90.
$500 for $500 for PSA 10.
Right. So that's kind of in like the early Cole Caulfield, like
Caulfield,
Zegras.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in that territory. I mean, he does deserve to be there. I think this guy is legit. He's going to be their number one guy. He's going to be a point per game player. If not, I could see him racking up, like a 30, 50, 35, 45, 90 point seasons. Like I could see that in his future. So he's going to be their number one guy. So it's a big pick. So I wouldn't mind. Like I think if you could find them at the right value, I think it's probably a bit, again, like the early hype is there. But, if you see like Ziegler's prices, you see Cole Caulfield raw prices there. I don't know what they are now, but I'd imagine raw is like $40-$50 somewhere down there. Yeah. So if you can move on him sometime next year, I still think it's a pretty good move. He's a fantastic player. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's a matter of when to buy. It's not doubting the talent or anything like that.
Right.
It's like buy when prices are low, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, the upper deck this year's release, right? So that's the pretty big chase, I guess, in upper deck. So you're gonna be paying premium prices, right, for that. But then if you think about it too, eventually there's gonna be a lot more PSA 10s. Sure. So like I think, if you do buy it at $500 and look at Cole Caulfield, you're going to sit sideways for the next probably many years and probably go down on a downward trend, and then he'll go up as he accomplishes more, brass on his resume, right? And if Seattle, goes deep into the playoffs, which, they look good at the end of the day, and having a 20-year-old kid, have a point per game, he's plus on the plus minus side of things. You compare like guys like Cole Caulfield, that's a brutal Montreal team, and people love Cole Caulfield, but you have the winning side in this situation here, right? So I agree with John though. Like I just think the timing's wrong. Like I wouldn't invest right now just because 2022-23 Upper Deck just literally released, right? So
yeah. No, I was surprised that it's up to 500 for his Young Guns PSA 10 already.
Yeah. I think that's because crazy. Low pop, right? Because there's not a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Just wait till Bedard comes out, and all of these guys will be forgotten, and you're going to be able to pick them up very cheap. Just wait.
All right, I'm listening to Johnny. I'm just gonna wait. I'm looking at Cole Caulfield because you guys have been mentioning him. His Young Guns PSA 10 is $500 too, and pop count of 93. So not that high, considering it's been a year now. But I guess that's a good comparison, I guess, to see year over year. Okay, we're going to move on to basketball, NBA. Paulo Banchero, I guess he is the NBA Rookie of the Year candidate favorite.
He's killing it.
Yeah, for the Orlando Magic. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's not many of his rookie cards out yet, right? So we're just waiting for it. But once it comes out, I'm sure there'll be a initial hype. But are you interested in Banchero cards?
There aren't any yet, right?
There's none.
Because Hoops is the first that comes out.
Yeah. And that's why it's like he's already built that hype.
Yeah.
Right. So before card releases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's one of those things where, Banchero kind of fell under the radar a bit, in my opinion, with Wembanyama like getting the spotlight always,
right?
And he kind of like fell under the radar, but like this guy's a beast. I mean, if you see him play, this guy's 6'10". He moves pretty quick, for someone with that kind of size. So I think there's a lot of ceiling with him, in my opinion. I just think that it sucks that he's had a full season before his cards get released because. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's killing it right now. He's averaging, 21, 7, and 4 as a, 20-year-old kid. Really,
yeah, that's pretty good.
That's the issue with hockey too, because Future Watch is like a year and a half, 2 years behind.
Yeah, but with that said, you look back at all the first pick overalls. All the way to LeBron.
Right.
There's only one or two guys that I would say, you know what? If I invested right out the bat. There's not that many out of that whole 20-year span. And that's something to kind of take with a grain of salt because, yes, they're number one picks, but how many number one picks pan out to be the LeBron James type players, right? So that's why it's like you're investing really, really early on, good talent, but is he that talent where it's the next LeBron James type player, right? And that's where I think you have to be careful, because it's, again, that hype of kind of like where he is now. And with the market corrections that we've been talking about, the true values are more common. Obviously, you could find cards that don't have true value where you could find a tremendous value on a card. But in this case, I think all eyes are going to be on him, especially on Prism, when it releases, because he's already having, a crazy season as is, right? So the hype is already built up.
True.
Yeah.
It's Banchero?
Banchero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I like him. I think he's a solid player. I'm a bit surprised he's been able to transition this quickly. He's a bit of a tweener. I think in college he bullied people around, and I think people had their doubts whether he can play like that in the NBA, but he has been playing like that. So it's a bit surprising in a good way.
Like Chris Webber.
Yeah. Totally very similar. But I'm still not, I think the whole rookie chase hype, because of that, that's number one. I'm not touching. Number two, I don't see him. This was, let's be honest, this past draft was a bit weaker. Yeah. And as good as he is, he's not, and most of these guys in the draft, they're not franchise altering guys. And I'm not talking about generational players like LeBron. I'm even talking like Dwayne Wade, Dirk, like franchise altering type of stud players. I don't think he's on that level. I think he's a notch below, multi all-star kind of player on a team. So yeah, rookie hype, not touching. And on top of that, I don't really see any crazy, number two, any crazy future with him. So, and then number three, kind of like the Bedard joke, Wemby is coming out. When he comes out, all of these guys are going to just sink like a rock in terms of their values.
That's
so
true.
I would just rather wait if you're into it.
Fair point. Very good points too. I don't know much about Banchero either, other than he's definitely on several highlight reels with his power dunks. So that's pretty. That's good for him as a player and as anyone that likes to collect him as an investment. So all I know is definitely he surprised a lot of people, and I don't like that. Obviously, he plays for a subpar Magic team, so that's another thing. Maybe next year's draft, if Wemby becomes his teammate, that might be a good fun team to watch. Right, the Magic, they have a good young core. So maybe that'll change my mind a little bit. But even then, like John mentioned, if he does go to the Magic, if Wemby goes to the Magic, he's going to overshadow everyone on that team. So so maybe it's not a good idea. All right. So the rest of the segment, and it's funny because we all know John doesn't chase rookies, so he's just going to say no to all these guys. But we'll see which ones he likes more than others. And I think we've got a reputation on this podcast for being one of the few that really talks baseball cards more in depth. So, I like to stay true to form. So these next 3 or 4 are baseball rookie candidates. Some of them are already played in the bigs. Some of them are being called up for next season. And I just looked on the MLB.com. These are, I believe, the top 3 or 4 ranked rookies heading into next season. So I'm going to start with Francisco Alvarez. I believe he's MLB.com's number 1. Catcher for the Mets, I believe.
Yeah, catcher for the Mets. It's a tough one for me with
catcher.
Alvarez. Yeah, he's catcher. He's a big-bodied catcher too. He's probably pushing 250. But
wow.
we're talking like big time power, like big time potential power. So it's interesting to see kind of like that where he fits in that Mets equation with all the moves they have with with a pretty exciting team, right? So, but for me, Francisco Alvarez is not the type of guy that I'm gonna be chasing, especially like there's other players that I really like over Francisco Alvarez. I'm rarely chasing catchers, even like the best catcher of our last generation, Yadi, for instance, he barely gets any love, and this guy's a Hall of Famer. And throughout his whole, pricing career, 18 seasons or whatever he's played, he really, look at Buster Posey, another catcher that's unbelievable, right? They just don't get the love. So for me, because Francisco Alvarez is such a top prospect. It's like Adley. Adley was the same way. Like Adley really didn't get as much love, even though like everything about Adley is amazing. Like this guy's gonna be a legit player in the big leagues. So I see the same thing with Francisco Alvarez. I think he's gonna drop 40 bombs a season, but I don't think he's gonna be catching for a long period of time. So for me, it's too early. It's not necessarily what I like, so I'm off of him.
Okay.
I have to lean like almost completely on Hyung on some of these prospects. So I'm gonna go with, I literally go with Hyung. It sounds boring, but I know nothing about this guy. So if Hyung says don't touch him, I will say I am not gonna touch him.
It's fair enough. Yeah, I think because he's ranked number 1 because of his power. If you read his scouting reports, that's like for baseball, we always talk about they got to hit home runs at this point. If you want some kind of investment, I think home run is like, obviously as a baseball player, you got to be more well-rounded, but if you can hit bombs, you're going to get noticed. Right. So that's what I like about Alvarez. But to your point, Hyung, I'm not investing in catchers at all, ever, unless they're for my PC. Like you named Buster Posey. He was a, phenomenal catcher. I forgot about Yadi to tell you, like that tells you something. I forgot about Yadi,
Exactly.
Like catchers are like, you don't think about them. It's not in the forefront of your mind. Growing up, Mike Piazza hitting, in the mid 90s, hitting 30, 40 home runs a season. And he's
crazy.
Pretty much forgotten now. Right. So catchers, I'm staying away from, despite Francisco Alvarez's pedigree.
Wait, do you guys, sorry, before you move on, do you guys know how much his cards are right now though?
His Bowman Chrome is sells for decent because he's still he's the top prospect in MLB, right?
Right.
So like his Bowman Chrome did sell for a lot. I remember it was like overpriced in my opinion, because he's not a type of player like the Cunha. He's not the type of player like Anthony Volpe. Like they're very, very different, projections. So for me, like I think he was overpriced.
His 2020 Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto base PSA 10 sold for $650.
Yeah, and that's down. That used to be over 1,000, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
No touchy.
All right. This guy I'm pretty excited about, but I really this whole segment we just want to hear what Hyung has to say.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So let's go.
Oh man, pressure's on.
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson, the Orioles.
Yeah,
Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles. For some, he's right now at least he's favored to win the Rookie of the Year going into this season. I saw him play actually when because he was called up at the end of the last season. I saw him play against the Jays, and he's a big guy, and
he's a big boy. He's definitely not a shortstop. Like for me, he's a third baseman. He's gonna actually swing it, in my opinion. But I'm more excited about Baltimore's future and where Gunnar Henderson sits in with that. I'm not personally a huge fan of kind of like Gunnar Henderson in terms of like, I guess, I think he'll be a good player. I think he'll hit. He's going to really hit. That's his tool. I think he has a lot of pop, a good lefty stick. But I like guys like Adley.
Better?
Not necessarily better. I think Adley's just a better ball player, but like again, it goes back to the catching side of things. Grayson Rodriguez, huge stud coming up on the pitching side of things. Jackson Holiday obviously was the big pick chase this year, the big chase in Bowman draft right now, and then you have guys like Colton Cowser, Jordan Westberg. It just goes. The list goes on with Baltimore's roster.
That's crazy.
So in terms of their future, I think they're going to be a really fun team, and it's going to be dependent. Like it's like kind of like that thing. Will he get lost in that mix, or will he be the guy? Right, and I don't really think he'll be necessarily that guy. He'll be a good player, a good part of it, but I think he's going to move to third base. And when you do that, you got to constantly put up, 30 plus at the corners in terms of power, right? So I like what I see, but I'm not sold necessarily on I'm going to chase Gunnar Henderson. He's one of those guys that I do like though, but I'm not chasing him on release.
Right. I agree with Hyung.
Yeah,
that's what
me
I'm gonna
too.
say.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
keep it nice and short.
But his Bowman Chrome,
Yeah, how
I
much
don't
does it
think
go for?
sells. I think it's really low compared to, I believe he's in 2018, but like I think he's a lot lower than your typical. I think that whole 2018 class wasn't great.
2019
Was it 2019?
Bowman Chrome
yeah.
draft.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 500 for a PSA 10.
Yeah, so he was in the same class as Adley Rutschman.
Right.
So Adley outsells him. So Adley might be the guy, and he might be the shadow.
There's
You know what I mean?
Mountcastle too. Like that team.
Yeah,
is
Mountcastle's a great player, but absolutely zero love, right? So it falls into kind of like that category where,
That's a danger for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Two more quickly. Anthony Volpe, New York Yankees.
Now
Looks
we're
like
talking.
he looks like he's getting a lot of hype already. He hasn't even played, but yeah, Volpe.
I like Volpe, 100%. Like
Okay.
I always liked Volpe because I got to see him play when he was 17 years old, and he was actually an underage guy on that Team USA team, and Corbin Carroll, Bobby Witt, they were all there, and he stood out. I don't know how you could stand out between those three, but that's how talented this guy is. And you mix in kind of like what the Yankees are doing, especially with, they're probably going to move Gleyber Torres to second base. Right now you have, I think it's Oswald Peraza, who's a very good defender. So I think that's their safety net. And they had Oswaldo Cabrera too, who actually put up decent numbers in his rookie season. So I think they're playing Volpe. They have backups for Volpe, but I think that's the big year. It's going to be the Bobby Witt Jr. or the Julio Rodriguez type for Anthony Volpe. So it's how he ends up responding at the end of the day. Volpe has plus speed. He has pretty decent power. So if he could come out, and do what like Julio kind of did, I could see it being a good chase. But with him being on the Yankees too, I think it adds that value. But then again, you got to remember, think of Wander Franco, think of all these other guys that kind of like had all the expectations, to be that guy, which Wander Franco is my dark horse this year 3. I'm telling you, I think he's going to have an absolute season. But anyways, Anthony Volpe, I think I'd be interested in chasing. I'm not saying that you're going to hit. It's a huge gamble, but I definitely like what New York's doing, what the Yankees are doing to put him in the spotlight. And he's kind of like the next dude putting on a Yankee jersey. And then you have Jason Dominguez to add to that, going forward in the future. So
Right. When is he projected to play?
Dominguez, probably 2024. Volpe,
Volpe.
probably this year. He'll
Coming
be
out?
called up. Yeah. I guarantee he'll be in big league spring training playing probably, some games. And that's why you assess, I think, how he, handles, big league spring training this year, because you have 2 other quality shortstops, but I think all fingers are pointing to Volpe that he's the dude.
Right.
Nice.
I'm assuming his cards have come down quite a bit from the hype last year, right?
Yeah, still overpriced though.
Oh, is it?
Still
Okay.
over. Oh yeah.
I'm just looking on Card Ladder. It's $900 for his
Base auto?
PSA 10 auto 10 double 10s.
Oh, double 10s.
Yeah.
Base.
I remember I sold the refractor PSA 1010, so I got the dual auto grade for $3,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, that was actually
that was
part
the
of the Acuna Blue,
Right.
Acuna Blue trade. Part of that, yeah.
Crazy.
So
That's crazy.
I know that went down a lot, but yeah, the hype has died down with Volpe a lot. But I think there will be a little spike in terms of the chase for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, kind of like Wander, if his name, even I knew his name, like a very casual baseball guy. So in the hobby, when you're chasing Bowman, like you've heard of this name, and I think when he's about to appear, kind of like Wander. I mean, Wander was on a different level because he was like the can't miss.
Yeah.
But I think Volpe will have that spike, and I was about to consider saying maybe he's something to go after just for the sake of that spike, right? But if his cards are still, like Hyung is saying, kind of overpriced, I mean, based on your risk appetite, I think there's still a possibility there. But for me, I would probably rather. I wanted to pick Volpe of all the guys you've named, but I'll probably still save my money.
Come on, he's a shortstop for the potential future shortstop of the New York Yankees.
I would only buy to do that sort of like quick flip right before he comes into the majors, like that week before season starts. Kind of how when Wander's cards were going absolutely bananas.
Yeah,
I would do it for that move. But if his cards are already pretty expensive, it's for me it's the risk isn't.
I think you're gonna see very similar. Maybe numbers to Bobby Witt Jr. I think.
Wow, I could see that's pretty good.
Yeah. That type of player.
Plus, he plays for the Yankees.
Plus he plays for the Yankees, and he probably has a little more speed, maybe.
But less power. Less power. I'm assuming.
No,
decent.
He's pretty decent. I think he could potentially be a 30 home run guy in the big leagues potentially.
Wow.
But I see him like between 20 and 30 home runs. I think.
Right.
It's gonna be the next Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter never hit home runs, and there
was a few seasons where Jeter hit. Like he had like fantasy stud a couple of seasons.
You're sounding like Mac Jones and Tom Brady, man. Be careful.
All right, let's just move on. Last guy, Corbin Carroll. You just mentioned him too in describing Volpe playing alongside
I really
Volpe.
like Corbin Carroll too. He's another guy. You know why? Because I like gamers. Because to me, it's like there's two things with baseball. You got your physical like athleticism, which is kind of like plays to the speed of the game. So when you're playing at the highest speed of the game, which is Major League Baseball, your athleticism is what shows, right? Then you have to be a gamer where someone like let's just say Aaron Judge. You know what you're getting from him. You're expecting home runs, the big frame. Corbin Carroll is like 5'10", probably 190, 185. Just absolute like wheels. Like where he just flat out runs. He could flat out play. Same with Volpe. It's just good baseball players. To me, I really like those players because to me, those guys have the longevity in a career. They will portray a really good career. It's not like a hit or miss. He's going to perform. And even like last year, I think he had a few at-bats in the big leagues. He still hit 4 home runs in like, less than 100 at-bats or something like that. So Corbin Carroll is going to, I think, have a pretty decent season. And the downfall obviously is, the Arizona Diamondbacks, playing for a team that gets no love. But then you got guys like Jordan Lawler who's coming up that are big time prospects that might change the spectrum of it. So I don't mind Corbin Carroll at all. I don't think he's going to be too expensive either, right? So he's more of a smaller Johnny Damon type player that I think, will be solid. Whether he becomes like a crazy, the guy, I don't think you're going to, you can't expect it from these young guys because you look at what happened with Wander and Bobby Witt this year. Julio held his own, obviously. But that's the reality of it is like most likely these guys aren't going to be successful. These guys are still 20, 21 years old.
They're young.
Dealing with a lot of failure, dealing with the best baseball in the world. Expect them to fail. Spencer Torkelson was a perfect example. This guy was a vet in college that absolutely mashed, and he was a plus hitter that absolutely struggled at the big league level with big league pitching, right? So I think that's the problem with the chases is you're putting all these crazy expectations and you're actually, if you're buying singles, you're paying that inflated price that they're going to keep that up. That Julio Rodriguez is going to come out and hit 285 with 30 home runs and steal 30 bags again. It's just that's the expectation. If that expectation is not met, right, that's a bad combo, right? Yeah. You're holding the bag at that point. So I think there's a lot of guys that are holding Wander's bag right now, and that sounds wrong just the way I said it, but I think
we're
Corbin
keeping
Carroll,
it in the podcast.
I think Corbin Carroll is actually a very similar player, but with way bit more speed than Wander.
He kind of reminds me like Trey Turner, right?
Yeah, Trey Turner,
like the speed and slender.
Yeah.
How are his card prices?
He's definitely the cheapest out of the guys
he's
we're talking
cheap.
about. 415 for his PSA 10 Bowman Craft Bowman Chrome draft.
And I think a lot of those, because I believe Corbin Carroll was 2019 too.
Yep.
So like a lot of these players, like Gunnar Henderson, Corbin Carroll, they got so shadowed because that whole year, all we're talking about was Wander Franco.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Julio Rodriguez. They were in 2019 Bowman, right? So we're talking about Bowman draft that these guys were a part of at the end of the year. So everybody was still chasing Wander and Julio, right? And then Adley, Corbin Carroll, Gunnar Henderson all came out in draft. So they got absolutely no love. So that's why I think, in my opinion, draft always gets kind of like beat up in terms of pricing compared to the standard Bowman released at the beginning of the year, and then you have Bowman Chrome kind of like in the towards the end of the year. So yeah, that's one thing. I think he's pretty cheap, relatively cheap. So I think there's opportunity in the Bowman Chrome market for Corbin Carroll for sure.
Nice.
Okay.
You know what? Yeah. Sorry, you're gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say of the four that you named, I think this will be my pick. Because
Corbin Carroll?
Yeah, Hyung is giving me some excitement about him, and
okay.
I liked how you guys said that he's the cheapest of the group. That intrigues me because if I were to make a big mistake, it wouldn't be as much of a loss. And then, you know what, to be honest, of what I know of Arizona, you know, in a lot of other sports, if you're in a really bad team like Banchero on the Orlando Magic, you end up signing a big deal. You're kind of stuck. You're stuck there for like half your career or like 70% of your career. But what I know about the Diamondbacks is you ain't going to be there that long. They're probably going to trade him out. So I think there's an opportunity. Maybe if he plays well enough, he's going to eventually have to go to like the Dodgers or the Red Sox or something like that, right? So it may not be a bad move.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Gunnar just before all the young guys actually come up to compete with him. I'm going to flip him after this year when he wins Rookie of the Year. So that's my plan.
That's your call, Gunnar Henderson, Rookie of the Year.
That's my call.
Right.
It could be part of the Dead Wrong segment later this year, but we'll see how that goes. All right, thanks for that, Hyung. We appreciate the baseball background, and it'll be exciting. Spring can't come soon enough, right? So, it'll be fun to really start investing in these guys. You kind of said this in passing, but I'm really, really intrigued at Wander Franco's Bowman Chrome autos again. Remember 2 years ago, I'm like, I want him, and then I waited too long, and then it went way up, and then obviously he played half a season because of his injury. And then I forgot about him completely. But 2019 Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto PSA 10 just sold for just over $1,000.
Wow,
that was going for like
much.
3-4K at the height.
Yeah.
So just saying. All right, I think we covered enough players. We'll wrap up this Friday episode here, but just a reminder to check out our Instagram at Cards to the Moon, all one word, and enter the contest pinned to the top of that account. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you with another brand new episode Tuesday. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.